The day I found $250,000 in cash under my dead son's bed, I realized everything I thought I knew about his death was a lie. My name is Roland Thatcher. I'm 52 years old, and for 20 years I worked as a warehouse supervisor at Brennan Logistics. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated, just honest work making sure shipments got where they needed to go. My son, Colby, was 24 when he died, just starting his career at Ridgefield Trucking Company as a dispatcher. He was a good kid, the kind who called his old man every Sunday night without fail, who still asked for advice about everything from changing his car's oil to dealing with difficult co-workers. My ex-wife, Jolene, used to be the love of my life. We met when we were both 23, got married 2 years later, and had Colby after 3 years of trying. For 2 decades, I thought we were solid. Sure, we had our problems like any couple, but I never imagined she could do what she did. Jolene worked as a real estate agent, always chasing the next big commission, always wanting more than what we had. She stood 5'6" with perfectly styled auburn hair and green eyes that used to look at me with love, but eventually only showed disappointment. My older brother, Dwayne, runs a small auto repair shop on the south side of town. He's 3 years older than me, built like a linebacker, even at 55, with graying hair and hands permanently stained with motor oil. Dwayne never married. Always said the shop was his wife and the cars were his kids. He loved KBY like his own son, taught him how to rebuild an engine when he was 16 and never missed one of his high school football games. The courtroom was packed the day my life fell apart. Jolene stood at the plaintiff's table. Her new black dress probably cost more than I made in a month. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, though I knew those tears were as fake as her concern for our son. Her lawyer, Melvin Ashford, was the kind of attorney you saw on billboards promising to get you what you deserve. He wore a $3,000 suit and had this way of making every word sound like gospel truth. "Your Honor," Ashford said, his voice filling the courtroom. Roland Thatcher's negligent approach to workplace safety directly contributed to his son's death. He raised Colby to believe that safety protocols were suggestions, not requirements. He taught him that speed was more important than caution. And now, because of his father's reckless teachings, Colby Thatcher is dead. Jolene took the stand and pointed right at me. "You killed him, Roland. Your negligence killed our boy. All those years you bragged about being the fastest loader, about knowing shortcuts around the safety rules. Colby learned that from you. He died because you taught him that regulations didn't matter. Every word was a knife in my chest because none of it was true. I had always been a stickler for safety. I'd fired men for not wearing hard hats. I'd written up workers for improper loading techniques. But Jolene had witnesses. 3 of my former co-workers who swore they'd heard me say things I never said, seen me do things I never did. The judge's gavel came down like thunder. The court finds in favor of the plaintiff. The full life insurance payout of $800,000 is awarded to Mrs. Jolene Thatcher along with all marital assets. I lost everything that day. The house Colby grew up in, the savings account we'd built over 20 years, and, most importantly, my reputation as a father. The local newspaper ran the story with the headline, "Father's Negligence Contributes to Son's Workplace Death." I became the man who killed his own son through carelessness. But 3 months later, living in Cole's old apartment because I had nowhere else to go and needed to feel close to him, I pulled that lockbox out from under his bed. My hands shook as I opened it, and inside I found the evidence that would reveal the truth. $250,000 in neat stacks of hundreds, 6 flash drives labeled with dates going back 3 months before his death, and a handwritten note in Cole's careful printing. The note changed everything. "Dad, if you're reading this, I'm gone. They'll probably make it look like an accident. The money is from them. I took it as insurance. The drives have everything. Start with the oldest one. Use the money to fight back, to clear your name because I know they'll blame you somehow. I'm sorry I didn't listen when you told me to stay out of it. I love you, Dad. Make them pay." When I plugged in that first flash drive and saw the video files, spreadsheets, and audio recordings, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. My son had been investigating a criminal operation at his company. He'd gathered evidence of drug trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy. And in one horrifying video, I saw my wife sitting with her lawyer planning our son's murder for the insurance money. That was the moment I understood. Colby hadn't died in an accident. He'd been murdered, and the woman I'd shared my life with for 26 years had orchestrated the whole thing. Life before tragedy struck was simple, but good. Every morning, I'd wake up at 5:30, make coffee in the same blue mug Colby gave me for Father's Day when he was 10, and head to Brennan Logistics by 6 ED. The warehouse crew respected me because I never asked them to do anything I wouldn't do myself. When a shipment needed rushing, I'd be right there with them, operating the forklift or loading pallets. That's how I'd raised Colby, too, to lead by example, to work hard, and to always do the right thing. Colby had just started working at Ridgefield Trucking Company 3 months before he died. He was proud of that job, his first real position after community college. "Dad, they're trusting me with dispatch operations for the entire northern route." He told me his first week 30 trucks all coordinated through my desk. Can you believe it? Every Sunday we had our tradition breakfast at Murphy's Diner on 10th Street. Just the two of us. We'd been doing it since Jolene started working weekend open houses 5 years ago. The owner, Murphy himself, would always joke that he should name a booth after us. We'd order the same thing every time. Scrambled eggs, bacon, wheat toast, and enough coffee to fuel a small army. "Dad, something weird's been happening at work," Colby said during what would be our last breakfast together. He was pushing his eggs around his plate, not really eating, which wasn't like him. "What kind of weird?" I asked, spreading grape jam on my toast. "Some of the drivers are making extra stops that aren't on the manifests. I noticed it when I was reviewing fuel receipts. They're using more gas than their scheduled routes would need, and the GPS data shows stops at addresses that aren't in our system." I set down my coffee cup and looked at my son. He had my brown eyes, but his mother's sharp features, and right now those eyes were troubled. "Have you talked to your supervisor about it?" "Frank Newcomb." "No, not yet. I wanted to be sure first. I've been documenting everything, keeping copies of the irregular manifests. Colby, listen to me. Report it to your supervisor and let him handle it. Don't get involved in company politics. You're new there. You don't know the full picture." He nodded, but I saw hesitation in his eyes. "Yeah, you're right. It's probably nothing. Maybe they're just running personal errands or something." "Exactly. Focus on doing your job well. That's what matters." Colby took a sip of his coffee, then looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Hey, Dad, if anything ever happens to me, I want you to know that everything I've done has been to make you proud." "Nothing's going to happen," I said, laughing at the sudden seriousness. "You're 24, healthy as a horse, and working a desk job. The most dangerous thing you face is paper cuts." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I know, I'm just saying. You've been the best father anyone could ask for. I want you to know that. Save the sentiment for my funeral, which won't be for another 30 years at least," I told him. "Now, eat your eggs before they get cold." At home, things with Jolene had been tense for months. She wanted me to apply for the operations manager position at Brennan, a desk job that paid $20,000 more a year, but would take me away from the warehouse floor. "Roland, we could have so much more," she'd say over dinner. "A bigger house, better cars, vacations to Europe instead of camping trips. You're content with mediocrity." "We have everything we need," I'd tell her. "A good home, reliable cars, and our son is starting his career. What more do you want? More?" She'd always answer, "Just more." My brother Dwayne saw it clearer than I did. During a barbecue at his place, he pulled me aside. "Roland, Jolene's changed. She's not the woman you married. She's just going through something." I defended her. "The real estate market's been tough." "No, brother. She looks at you like you're a disappointment, like you're holding her back from something. Watch yourself." 2 weeks after that breakfast with Colby, my phone rang at work. It was Frank Newcomb from Ridgefield Trucking. "Mr. Thatcher, there's been an accident. You need to come to Mercy Hospital right away." By the time I got there, my son was gone. A shipping container had somehow come loose from its securing chains and crushed him against a loading dock wall. The investigation was quick, barely 72 hours. They blamed improper safety protocols, said Colby had been standing in a blind spot, hadn't followed proper procedures, and because I'd taught Colby everything I knew about warehouse safety growing up, Jolene blamed me. The divorce papers arrived exactly 1 week after Cole's funeral. Jolene had them delivered to me at work right in front of my crew. The process server walked into the warehouse during lunch break and announced my name for everyone to hear. Roland Thatcher, you've been served. The yellow envelope felt like it weighed 1,000 dollars in my hands. Inside was more than divorce papers. Jolene was also filing a wrongful death lawsuit, claiming my negligent teachings had directly caused our son's death. Her lawyer, Melvin Ashford, had crafted a narrative that painted me as a reckless father who taught his son to ignore safety regulations for the sake of efficiency. The first meeting with my lawyer didn't go well. Roland, they have 3 witnesses who say you regularly bragged about bypassing safety protocols, he said, sliding depositions across his desk. These are sworn statements from your coworkers. I read them in disbelief. Jerry Watts, who I'd worked with for 15 years, claimed he heard me tell Colby that safety regulations are written by desk jockeys who've never worked a real day in their lives. Monica Flores swore she witnessed me teaching Colby dangerous shortcuts during a Bring Your Kid to Work day 10 years ago. Rick Polson stated I'd often said OSHA can kiss my ass during safety meetings. None of this is true, I said, my voice shaking. Jerry owes me money from a Super Bowl bet 3 years ago. Monica got written up last month for a mistake that I reported. And Rick, I recommended against his promotion twice because he was actually unsafe. These people are lying. Can you prove that? My lawyer asked. The truth was, I couldn't. It was their word against mine, and they had 3 voices to my 1. The courtroom was standing room only on the day of the hearing. Jolene had made sure everyone knew about it, had even given an interview to the local news about seeking justice for her son. She walked in wearing a black designer suit, her hair perfectly styled, tissues already in her hand. She looked every inch the grieving widow and mother. Ashford was brilliant in his ruthlessness. He presented me as a man who valued speed over safety, productivity over precaution. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, he began. Roland Thatcher spent 20 years teaching his son that rules were meant to be broken, that safety was secondary to getting the job done fast. And that lesson, that negligent philosophy, led directly to Colby Thatcher's preventable death. When Jolene took the stand, her performance was Oscar-worthy. Roland always cut corners on safety, she said, tears streaming down her face. He taught Colby that safety regulations were suggestions. He'd come home bragging about how he could load trucks faster than anyone because he knew which rules to ignore. Our son learned from his father, and it killed him. Mrs. Thatcher, Ashford continued, did your husband ever express concern about workplace safety? Never. He said safety meetings were a waste of time. He told Colby that real men didn't need handrails or safety zones, that those were for weaklings. She looked directly at me. I begged him to be more careful to teach our son properly, but Roland thought he knew better than everyone. And now our baby's gone. My lawyer's cross-examination was weak. Jolene had rehearsed every answer, had a response for every challenge. When asked about my safety record at work, she claimed I'd gamed the system and intimidated workers into not reporting incidents. The 3 witnesses were even worse. They'd coordinated their stories perfectly, each adding details that supported the others. Jerry described specific conversations with dates and times. Monica had kept a journal where she'd apparently documented my unsafe practices out of concern. Rick presented himself as a safety advocate who tried to report me but was shut down by management who liked my productivity numbers. My brother Dwayne wasn't allowed to testify on my behalf because he was biased as a family member. My actual safety record at Brennan Logistics, 20 years without a single incident, was dismissed as irrelevant to his parenting methods. The safety awards I'd won were participation trophies that everyone got. The judge's decision was swift and brutal. The evidence clearly shows a pattern of negligent behavior and teaching that contributed to this young man's death. The court awards the full life insurance payout of $800,000 to Mrs. Jolene Thatcher, along with all marital assets, including the family home, savings accounts, and investment portfolios. Outside the courthouse, Jolene gave another performance for the cameras. $800,000 won't bring back my son, she said, but at least justice was served. Maybe Roland will think about what he's done. Maybe other fathers will learn from his mistakes. I stood there watching the woman I'd loved for 26 years celebrate my destruction. and I wondered how I'd been so blind to who she really was. I moved into a studio apartment on the wrong side of town, the kind of place where the radiator clanged all night and the neighbors argued through paper-thin walls. For 3 months I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Cole's face at that last breakfast. Heard him trying to tell me something was wrong while I dismissed his concerns. The guilt was eating me alive. My brother Dwayne tried to help. He'd bring groceries, force me to eat, sit with me in silence when words weren't enough. "You need to fight this, Roland," he'd say. "This isn't right. Jolene's lying and we both know it." "With what money?" I'd respond. "She took everything. I can't even afford a decent lawyer for an appeal." The nightmares were the worst part. I'd dream about Colby calling for help while I stood frozen, unable to move, unable to save him. Sometimes I'd wake up screaming his name and my neighbors would bang on the walls telling me to shut up. I started drinking, something I'd never done before. Whiskey became my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then, one morning, 3 months after the trial, I got a call from Colby's landlord. "Mr. Thatcher, this is Paul Brenner from Riverside Apartments. Your son's lease has 2 months remaining. I need to know what you want to do with his belongings." Jolene had been too busy spending the insurance money to deal with Kay's apartment. She'd already bought a new Mercedes and put a down payment on a condo near the lake, according to Dwayne, who'd seen her around town. The thought of strangers throwing away Cole's things made my chest tight. "I'll take over the lease," I heard myself saying. "I'll move in and handle everything." "Are you sure that's healthy?" Paul asked gently. He'd known Colby had liked him. "It's what I need to do. Dwayne helped me move what little I had. Living in his space, that's heavy." "Roland, are you sure about this?" "I need to feel close to him," I said. "It's all I have left. Jolene took everything else, but she can't take this." Walking into Cole's apartment was like stepping back in time. His coffee mug sat unwashed by the sink, a ring of dried coffee at the bottom. His jacket hung on the hook by the door. The calendar on the wall was still turned to the month he died, with breakfast with Dad written in red on every Sunday. The place still smelled like his cologne mixed with the cinnamon candles he liked to burn. I spent the first 2 days just sitting in his living room looking at his things, remembering his bookshelf was filled with mystery novels and technical manuals from work. His PlayStation was still connected to the TV, a game paused middle. His work boots sat by the door, laces still tied from when he'd kicked them off. On the 3rd day, I decided to pack up his bedroom. I needed to do something productive, or I'd lose my mind completely. I started with his closet, folding his clothes carefully, remembering when we'd bought each item. The shirt from his college graduation, the tie I'd given him for his first day at Ridgefield. When I got to the bed, I pulled off the sheets and lifted the mattress to check underneath. That's when I saw it pushed far against the wall, covered in dust. A metal lockbox I'd never seen before, about the size of a briefcase with a combination lock securing it. My first thought was that it might be private, something a son wouldn't want his father to see. But Colby was gone, and something about finding it hidden so carefully made my pulse quicken. I sat on the floor and tried different combinations. His birthday, 045, nothing. Our home address, nothing. His social security number, nothing. Then I remembered the day he got his first bike. He was 7 years old, July 15th, 2008. He'd fallen off 6 times before finally riding it down the street. And when he came back, his smile was brighter than the sun. "Did you see me, Dad? Did you see me go? 0715808. Click. The lock opened. Inside, the first thing I saw was money. Stacks and stacks of $100 bills wrapped in banks. I counted it with shaking hands. $250,000. Where did my son get $250,000 in cash? Under the money were 6 flash drives, each labeled with dates from the 3 months before his death, and at the bottom, a white envelope with Dad written on it in Cole's handwriting. I opened the letter with trembling fingers, and my son's words changed everything I thought I knew about his death. The letter was written in Cole's careful handwriting, the same way he'd written thank you notes as a kid. "Dad, if you're reading this, I'm gone. They'll probably make it look like an accident. The money is from them. I took it as insurance. The drives have everything. Start with the oldest one. Use the money to fight back, to clear your name, because I know they'll blame you somehow. I'm sorry I didn't listen when you told me to stay out of it. I love you, Dad. Make them pay. My laptop was in my car. I ran down 3 flights of stairs, grabbed it, and ran back up. My hands shook as I inserted the first flash drive dated 3 months before Kay's death. A folder opened containing video files, audio recordings, and spreadsheets. The first video was dash cam footage from a Ridgefield truck. The timestamp showed 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. The truck pulled into an abandoned warehouse where 3 unmarked vans were waiting. Men transferred boxes from the truck to the vans, boxes that weren't on any manifest. The second video showed the same thing at a different location. The third, fourth, and fifth videos established a clear pattern. Ridgefield Trucking was moving something off the books. I opened the spreadsheet. Colby had documented everything with the precision I'd taught him. Truck numbers, driver names, dates, times, locations, and estimated values based on the payment records he'd found. The operation was moving millions of dollars worth of contraband every month using legitimate trucking routes as cover. The audio files were even more damning. The first was a recording of Frank Newcomb, KBY's supervisor, on a phone call. The new kid in dispatch is asking questions. He pulled manifests from the last 6 months. He's comparing them to fuel receipts and GPS data. Handle it, another voice said. Make it clean. We can't afford exposure right now. My blood went cold. I recognized that second voice. It was Melvin Ashford, Jolene's divorce lawyer. The second flash drive contained more evidence, including photos Colby had taken of shipping documents, altered manifests, and financial records showing payments to drivers for special deliveries. The third drive had recordings of meetings where the entire operation was discussed in detail. Ridgefield Trucking was a front, moving drugs from Mexico through standard shipping routes, dropping them at predetermined locations for distribution. The fourth drive made me vomit. It was a recording of Ashford talking to Frank Newcomb about the Thatcher problem. They discussed making Colby's death look like a workplace accident using a container that had been deliberately weakened. They talked about timing, about making sure KBY would be in the right spot. They mentioned having a backup plan if the container didn't kill him instantly. But the fifth flash drive destroyed me completely. The file was labeled Mom's Betrayal. I almost didn't open it. Part of me knew that whatever was on it would change everything forever, but I had to know. It was a video Colby had secretly recorded in our living room. The date was 2 weeks before his death. Jolene was sitting on our couch, the one we'd bought together for our 10th anniversary. Across from her sat Melvin Ashford. I was at work. Colby must have hidden a camera before leaving for work that morning. The insurance policy is worth $800,000, Ashford said, pouring wine into Jolene's glass. Once your son has his accident, you file for divorce immediately. Blame Roland for teaching him unsafe practices. I'll handle the witnesses. Jolene sipped her wine. And you're sure Colby won't suffer? It'll be quick. The container accident is already arranged. Your husband takes the fall for negligence. You get the money and we disappear together. I've already got us a place in Costa Rica. What about Roland? I don't want him dead, just ruined. He'll be destroyed but alive. Everyone will think he killed his own son through incompetence. He'll probably drink himself to death within a year from guilt. Jolene laughed. She actually laughed. He always was weak. 26 years of mediocrity. I deserve better. We deserve better. They kissed then, long and passionate, on the couch where our family had watched movies together, where Colby had opened Christmas presents, where we'd celebrated his college acceptance. The last flash drive had one file. It was Colby speaking directly to the camera recorded the night before he died. Dad, I know about Mom. I confronted her tonight, told her I had evidence. She panicked, made a call. I heard her tell someone that it had to happen tomorrow. I'm scared, but I can't run. They'll just hunt me down. I've hidden copies of everything with Uncle Dwayne, too, just in case. If something happens tomorrow, know that I love you. You were the best father anyone could ask for. You taught me to do the right thing, and that's what I'm trying to do now. I called Dwayne immediately. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial his number. Roland, thank God, he said before I could speak. Colby gave me a package 3 weeks before he died. Told me only to open it if something happened to him. I've been waiting for your call. I knew something wasn't right, but I wanted to respect his wishes. He knew they were going to kill him, I said, my voice breaking. Jolene planned the whole thing with her lawyer. It's all here on video. Come to the shop right now. Bring everything. We're going to the FBI tonight. The FBI field office took us seriously the moment they saw the first video. Agent Patricia Greer and Agent Marcus Coleman worked through the night reviewing every file, every recording, every document KBY had collected. By morning, they had mobilized a task force. Your son built a bulletproof case. Agent Greer told me he documented a multi-million-dollar drug trafficking operation and his own murder conspiracy. This is one of the most thorough civilian investigations I've ever seen. The arrests started at dawn. 17 members of the trafficking ring were taken into custody simultaneously. Frank Newcomb was arrested at his home, still in his pajamas. Several truck drivers were pulled over mid-road, their trucks impounded and searched. They found $12 million worth of heroin hidden in false compartments. Melvin Ashford tried to run. He made it to the airport but was arrested at the gate, a one-way ticket to Brazil in his hand. He had $2 million in offshore accounts and 3 fake passports in his carry-on. Jolene was harder to find. She disappeared the day after I moved into Cole's apartment, probably sensing something was wrong. The FBI tracked her to a resort in Mexico where she was living under the name Jennifer Morrison with her new boyfriend, one of Ashford's associates named Dennis Vale. The Mexican authorities arrested her during a spa treatment. The news footage showed her screaming about her innocence as they dragged her away in handcuffs. During the trial, the truth came out in devastating detail. Ashford had been running the drug operation for 5 years, using his law practice as a cover. He'd seduced Jolene 6 months before Kobe's death, promising her wealth beyond her dreams if she helped him eliminate the threat KBY posed. They'd planned every detail from the container accident to framing me for negligence. It was supposed to be simple. Jolene broke down on the witness stand. No one was supposed to get hurt. Ashford promised me Colby would just be injured enough for insurance. When I found out he was dead, I wanted to stop everything. But Ashford said we had to continue or we'd both go to prison. The prosecutor's response was ice cold. You sold your son's life for money, Mrs. Thatcher. You sat in that courtroom and destroyed your husband while your son's body was barely cold in the ground. There's no version of this story where you're not a monster. Jerry Watts, Monica Flores, and Rick Polson all confessed to perjury. Ashford had paid them each $50,000 to lie about my safety record. They got 2 years each in federal prison. Jolene got life without parole for conspiracy to commit murder and drug trafficking. Ashford got the death penalty. The insurance company returned the $800,000 to me, plus damages for fraud. Combined with legal settlements, I received nearly $2 million. I donated every penny except Kay's hidden cash. The $800,000 from the insurance went to establish the Kobe Thatcher Foundation, which provides legal support for families who've lost loved ones to violence. The settlement money funded a scholarship at KBY's Community College for criminal justice students. The $250,000 KBY had stolen from the traffickers became the KBI Thatcher Center for Workplace Safety. We provide free training for workers on recognizing illegal activities and safely reporting them. We've helped expose 4 criminal operations in 2 years. At Jolene's sentencing, she begged me for forgiveness. Roland, I'm sorry. I was blinded by greed. Can you ever forgive me? I looked at her, this stranger wearing my wife's face, and said the only truth I had left. Colby died believing in justice. He died protecting others from the poison you helped spread. You didn't just kill our son. You killed everything good we ever had. I'll never forgive you, but I thank God Colby was nothing like you. Dwayne and I visit Colby's grave every Sunday. We bring breakfast from Murphy's Diner, 3 meals, and we sit there talking to him, telling him about the lives his evidence saved, the families his sacrifice protected. My son knew death was coming but stood his ground anyway. He gathered evidence, protected it, and made sure justice would prevail even if he couldn't. He didn't just save my reputation. He saved countless families from drugs that would have destroyed their communities. KBY became the hero I always knew he was, and his legacy lives on in every life saved by his courage. If you found this story moving, please like this video and share it with others who need to hear about Kay's incredible bravery. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful true stories of justice and redemption.